Hello. In this video, we're going to go through learning target 221B, which is the characteristics of a quadratic equation. And this is part one because we're not going to do all the characteristics in this notes, but we will finish them later. So if you're not in class, I encourage you to do this exploration on your own. I think it's super helpful to be able to make some conclusions yourself. But I'm going to start with the notes on the back. So these are 4 characteristics that we're going to need to know from an equation. And we already talked about how to find these from a graph. When you don't have a graph, how do you identify directionality and the vertex and so on? So our directionality is based on our A value in our quadratic equation. And for reference, up at the top, I'm going to put our quadratic, ax squared plus bx plus c. So when I reference A, B, and C, this is what I'm talking about. A is always in front of x squared, B is in front of x, and C is the constant all alone. So our directionality is based on A, and if A is positive, the directionality is up. If A is negative, it's down. Okay, so if our A value is positive, up, A value is negative, down. Great. Second part is our y-intercept, and our y-intercept is the same concept as our y-intercept for linear functions. It's that constant that's all by itself. So our y-intercept is the constant, which is our c value. You just have to remember to write it as a point, so 0, comma, our c value. And then our axis of symmetry and our vertex are related to each other, because remember, those are our middles. So this is the line in the middle, this is the point in the middle. To find that axis of symmetry, it's actually a formula. So you are going to do x equals negative b over 2a. And then remember, for our vertex, this is our x value. Like, our axis of symmetry is the same x value as the vertex. So we already know our x value for our vertex. All we need to do is find our y by plugging this x back in. So we are going to plug line of symmetry, x into equation to find y. So pause this if you need any more of this written, but let's go through an example. So it says to determine the characteristics of this parabola, and we have our parabola here, f of x equals negative x squared plus 6x minus 10. So I'm going to start with the directionality, and the directionality, remember, is based off of our A value. And I like to just kind of label, like, here's A, here's B, here's C. They're typically in order, but you do have to remember that A needs to go with x squared, B with x, and C is the constant, because if it's missing its B value or something, you don't want to get confused. So you do have to know, like, which is which for A, B, and C. So in our case, our A value is negative. So there's a -1 for our A value. So that means our directionality is down. Then I'm going to skip down to the y-intercept because I think those two are the easier of the two. So I do those first. So my directionality is down because my A is negative, and my y-intercept is just my constant. I just need to write that as a point. So it's 0, comma, -10. All right, so then our line of symmetry and our vertex go together. You need to do the line of symmetry first because that one has its own formula. So to find the axis of symmetry, you're going to use negative b over 2a. And so we're going to plug in our b and our a. So I have a negative sign out front, and then b is 6 over 2 times -1. So on top, I just have -6. 2 times -1 is -2. And then I want to divide these two numbers to get 3. So my line of symmetry is x equals 3. And then you want to go ahead and since that is the x value for our vertex, like I already know that my vertex is going to be 3 comma something. And to find out what that y value is, you need to take this 3 and plug it back into our original equation. So to find our vertex, we're going to plug 3 into that equation. -3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 10. And you can do this piece by piece, or you can plug this entire thing into your calculator. If you are using like a phone calculator, it might be difficult to do that, but if you have our calculators at school, it should be pretty easy. So we're going to plug in negative parentheses 3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 10. And we get -1. So that is my y value for my vertex. So I want you to pause the video and do this problem on your own and then unpause it to see the answers. All right, so I have my answers on here. So your directionality is up for this positive a value. Y-intercept is 0, 3. Our line of symmetry ends up being 4. Be careful with this double negative. Remember, a negative turns into a positive 16 up here to give our value of 4. And then when you plug it in, you should get a y value of -29. So your vertex is this. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.